we can have peace if you come to the table and present the United States and the world with an airtight, not the old plan, but an airtight plan to do what you say you want to do. That is, prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. So here we can be on the same page here, and we can avoid further war. Just come to the table and do that. Just assure the world that your promise, which is hollow, obviously, speaking on behalf of the Iranian regime, that you don't want to develop nuclear weapons, that your promise can actually be made certain on the ground. Then we can have peace.
Okay, Professor Merendí.
Oh, is it my turn? Because you've been, for the last half an hour, you've been busy with the spokesman for genocide and Epstein's buddy, who used to go to Rape Island with him.
I'm a lawyer.
For a person who frequented Rape Island, I think anything that he says is nonsense. And I listened to him. I listened to him, but he's a lawyer, yet he cannot tolerate the words of a layman. That's how weak his argument is. Now, of course, someone who supports the genocidal regime of Israel would say this sort of nonsense. And of course, we recall how the South African government in its ICJ complaint showed genocidal intent by the Israeli regime, including the Israeli prime minister, whose spokesman you brought on and had this little love fest before this discussion.
But just to be clear, I have repeatedly asked you in our numerous interviews, and I platform you regularly, something you always try and diminish in terms of its significance, but I do. And I've always asked you to tell me one critical thing about your own regime, and you always fail, which is very telling. So let's just park that to one side. Now let's get back to the debate.
My regime is infinitely superior to your genocidal regime that helped the Israeli regime in the genocide. My regime, as you like to call it, your guest doesn't want me to speak, obviously. My regime did not pull the plugs on little infants in the hospital, in the premature babies in the Al-Nasser hospital. Pull the plug on those premature babies and let them die. My regime didn't do that. The regime that you support did that. But getting back to the topic, the reality is that chemical weapons were used on our country with the support of your government. I survived 2 chemical attacks, and then your guest has the audacity to say that Iran would use weapons of mass destruction. During the Iran-Iraq war, the state, the leader, refused to produce chemical weapons, even though the military politicians asked him. He said, no, it's immoral. So we had to suffer your chemical weapons, and your governments prevented our government from even purchasing gas masks. My gas mask was bought on the black market. It was North Korean. So don't talk about weapons of mass destruction to me when my friends have died because of your chemical weapons.
I would like to see the United States and Israel together topple the Iranian regime and replace it by a democratic regime where all people can vote and all people have free speech.
You speak on behalf of an ethno-supremacist regime, and you speak of free speech. Your country is run by oligarchs. You think that the people of the United States have free speech when they lose their jobs? When on campus they can't talk out against the Israeli regime and the brutality of the regime? Don't talk nonsense. People lose their jobs in your country. Their futures are destroyed when they speak truth to power. Your regime is the regime that has used nuclear weapons twice. And your ally, your genocidal ally, the apartheid regime, the illegitimate regime, where 44% of young Jews below the age of 35 in the United States, believe that Jews and Palestinians have to live together in one state with equal rights. That is exactly the Iranian policy. So despite your propaganda, despite your nonsense, despite the lies that you promote, people are waking up. Jews in the United States are waking up. Christians, Muslims, people from all walks of life. are
Because we
seeing
have-
who's carrying out a
That's-
Holocaust in Gaza. You know, Ronald
freedom.
Reagan, when this genocidal regime in 1982 invaded Lebanon, he called it a Holocaust. This is far worse than the Holocaust of 1982. But you refuse to acknowledge this genocide, whereas the population in Gaza has collapsed. It's not 70 or 80,000 people who've died. As a result of this war, hundreds of thousands have died. The population has collapsed. People are dying every day, not just because the kids are being bombed or being sniped, because they're dying of illnesses and a lack of medicine that this filthy regime is imposing on the people, on the kids of Gaza. But you want to look away and antagonize the Iranian people or the Palestinians or Hezbollah or whoever else it is that you'd like to antagonize so that they can get away with this. But you will not be able to do so because people are waking up across the world.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند.